Hello, myself Sunil R and here basically we are discussing a little bit about the software creation basically. That is the GDP basically. So GDP is also basically one of the software basically you can say. The software company basically who says that basically the software basically has to create and that basically must contain this whole thing basically. So GDP software basically 100% might be there. It might possible that few things basically might not be there. So human souls basically data 100% might be there basically because these all are the basic thing basically. If the foods basically which is basically going to be eaten by the each and every public basically, right? Apple is there, vegetables are basically there, so they are basically going to eat, right? If they are going to eat, then basically what basically that contains basically that 100% their group basically might be having 100% basically. Yeah. The government basically might be having. Public basically don't know basically. That is 100% basically. Doctors basically knows that basically. Doctors basically knows that. That are also basically the MD doctors basically. The mbbs doctor basically you can say. They basically 100% know that basically the GDP basically which is generating basically that basically contains the each and every basically the creations that basically contains the child which is going to come basically. So it's basically not easy basically 1% to that basically are not easy here basically to create the city here. Lots of things basically you have to do. So 1% to that basically to become number one software company also basically it's not so easy. Then into that basically yes here basically because any time basically any types of requirement basically comes, but the requirement basically comes any basically time and any from any time basically. It might possible that one tempo is basically going, they basically is having that tempo basically. So from there also basically they gets the requirement. So that's why they say that basically we have produced lots of our small item basically also, yeah. So according to that also basically they gets the requirement. Few things basically, lots of few things basically they gets. Lots of few things basically they gets basically. Like this basically in this laptop only basically I have created more than 100 new requirements of the software industry. And in GDP also basically that GDP is also basically one of the software basically 100%. So that also basically might possible that few basically point basically might be added basically. GDP software 100% is there. That this is the growth development basically. In this growth development basically if you are having the human needs from this factory. So this factory basically is having the data of this 1 lakh child basically. So that's the future creation basically. If you are missing this future creation only basically, then it will create might possible that it might generate some new disease basically. Then basically you have to solve that disease. Then basically you have to solve that disease basically. Then basically it will take time. Like this basically lots of basically problems will happen basically. So like this basically the GDP also basically contains this whole thing basically also. That 1 lakh child is going to come. So be ready for that basically 1 lakh child. And like this basically the each and every human basically people are ready for that basically. Each and every human basically they are basically ready. They say that basically we are ready basically because we are basically getting the each and every human needs from the government here basically. Government basically are taking care of us basically here. Government basically have lots of big businessmen basically here. They are basically giving the suggestions to the government here basically. Like this lots of suggestion group basically we also have basically. They are also giving us lots of suggestion basically. Government says like this basically. Then basically government feel that basically what a basically businessman basically we got here basically. We proud of that basically. We proud of this all businessman basically. We proud of this all basically human creation group basically who gives the literally data basically to the each and every food creation factories basically. Literally basically the prime minister and the president should be proud basically how basically we got the team basically. So they basically should proud basically. So like this each and every country basically I am in India, so basically I am talking about India country. That basically the Indian president basically should be proud that basically which kind of basically he basically got the team basically. which kind of basically the businessman basically he got, which kind of team basically got to create the human souls basically. And the human souls basic creation say that basically we have passed with this all information to the food industry also. Yeah, we are 100% passed. That if you don't want basically don't have trust basically, then ask the basically GDP software basically, that basically top three basically software companies are there. You ask them basically that whether we have passed or not basically. They will tell basically how basically we are proud of that. Sorry, the software company will say that basically how basically we are proud that human souls basically group basically given us the data. So human here basically the software company basically say that basically we have to be clear about the what information we have got and the what information will be we have not got. So for that basically the company owner basically have to be 100% should be clear that basically in future basically it might possible that some big issue basically comes, and like this basically they escape basically here. So like this basically each and everything basically has to be clear. The Infosys like company basically he basically takes a printout also basically. Up to that level basically he is clear. So that is basically different thing basically. Up to that level basically each company basically can't do, because his infrastructure basically and the money structure is up to that level. That's why basically he can do. But not each company basically can't do. It's not possible to manage only basically. So like this basically few company go up to this level also basically, because they know basically that any problem basically might can occur anytime basically. So basically GDP basically here basically the each and every food industry basically each and every factory industry basically each and every industrial area basically they basically is having the data here basically of the 1 lakh basically child which is going to come. Mumbai is having the data of 8 lakh child is going to come basically, and Bollywood basically group 100% is having the data in the Bollywood souls. That is the movies basically that are Sholay movie, Holiday movie. This all basically movie basically 100% is having the souls data basically. So like this, each and every people basically is having the data basically. The child which is going to come. So the human child, so the human souls which is going to come, that also basically contains this all data basically, which is the child is all going to come soon basically. So just see the basically chaining system basically also. So just see the chaining system also basically. How basically the food industry is connected, how each and every things basically are connected, how the iron basically industry is connected, how each and every vegetable industry is connected, how basically restaurants basically industry are connected, how basically the hotel industry are connected, how basically the software industry kitchens basically are connected, how each and every call center basically industry are connected, how basically the finance industry, how the banking industry basically are connected, because each and every currencies basically are also basically printed on the base of this 1 lakh child is going to come basically. So you can just imagine basically the dangerous level GDP is actually. GDP basically whoever basically calculates the basically of the country basically, he basically 100% might be knowing this whole thing basically, because he is into the GDP na basically. He or she basically whoever basically here they basically know basically what actually the GDP is, and this 1 lakh child is which is going to come basically, that 100% they might be knowing. That's why basically I always tell na basically the prime minister basically and president they should be basically proud of basically the team basically they have basically. They should be proud that basically we got this businessman basically who know this all this thing basically. We should be proud of this basically the industry, each and every industry basically which basically they say that basically we are having this all data basically. So this basically the president basically and prime minister basically of the India basically should be proud that basically they have this all data basically. They basically know this all this information basically, that the factory industry basically is producing each and every data, and vegetables industry and food industry is basically producing this all data according to 1 lakh child which is going to have basically. So you can just imagine the basically the proud basically the each and every people basically might be having. So like this the GDP basically also contain basically lots of things basically. So this is also basically this is also basically a little bit about the GDP basically, which is the contribution basically, which is also basically the contribution of the each and every cities, each and every states and each and every countries to the earth planet. In next video we are going to discuss a little bit more about this.